Are you ready for the bell? Please rise for the singing of the Star-Spangled Banner. And O Canada, the words are on your table.
Is it a bad mic?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bolts bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Nice job.
Oh, Canada.
Our own and native land, true patriot love, in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, our true north home and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you.
Please be seated. Hello? Hi. Hey, hi to this side of the room. Hi over there. Hi to this side of the room and hi over there. And welcome, welcome everyone. I'm Rosemarie Roney and the mic is too low. So our sound person needs to fix. It's going to get better. I am the 109th president of the Rotary Club of Ann Arbor. Welcome to our reunion celebration dinner on behalf of our entire Rotary Club, the almost 300 members. Here we are. We have returned to our historic home, and it means a lot to us. And music always makes it better. And so we really appreciated the Paul Keller Jazz Trio. And we have divas within our own club singing the Star-Spangled Banner. We're 3 stars of wine, women, and song from Carytown Concert House. That was Shelley McMillan, Kathy Waugh, and Monica Swartout-Bebo. And then we have our own tenor, Steve Pierce, singing "O Canada, Thank You." And not only that, we have talented pianists. Tickling the ivories was Joni Knertzer. Joni, thank you so much. We are so proud to be one of the largest Rotary clubs in Michigan and one of the 50th largest in the United States. We are part of a powerful global force that does good. But then you're going to hear more about that from John Hewko, our keynote speaker, about why Rotary matters. But we have other Rotary glitterati among us, and I would start with inviting Sparky Leonard, our district governor, to come forward.
You know, it just feels so good to hear those national anthems. And when you hear your country's national anthem in a foreign country, it's extra special. So thank you very, very much for that. Tonight, it's a real honor and a privilege to be given this opportunity not only to serve our district, but to introduce some very special guests tonight on behalf of, yes, the largest club in our district as they celebrate, I guess, the reopening of the union. So it's a great honor, and thank you, President Rosemary, for offering that to me. I'd like to welcome tonight on behalf of our district, and I have to use the cheaters. I'll start with our keynote speaker, Mr. John Hewko. I would ask that we all just hold our applause until the end. But with John, John has some ties to Michigan, as many of you know. And with John tonight is his father, Lou. Lou, please stand if you could. Lou. John also has his younger brother, Mark, here, and accompanying Mark is his wife, Lisa, and his son, Andrew. So welcome from Rotary. Lou has there we go. Lou has a trusty companion, and Jim, would you please stand, Jim Hayes, always here to help Lou along. Thank you very much for what you do. And so just like the union has a lot of history and many people that have studied here in Ann Arbor, like Lou Hewko did when he received his master's degree, Rotary has a lot of history, and a lot of that history is in the room tonight. So I'd like to take a few moments just to recognize some of those people that have paved the way for Rotary to be where we are today. And I would like to start first with past Rotary International Director Mike McCullough from our neighboring district, 6400. Mike. Again, I'm Sparky Leonard, and I have the honor to be the district governor for District 6380. And I also have the honor of having one of my classmates from District 6400 here with us tonight, John Chambers. John? We have many past district governors here. We will announce they will not be alphabetical. You will not be in your district order, so I apologize if we have anything out of order. That's one thing you do with the past district governors. You make sure that you're doing it the right way for them. So here we go. Past district governor Terrence Allen, please stand and remain standing until we announce all of you. Past district governor Michelangelo Caruso. Past district governor Judy Garver. Past district governor Jim Gilmore. Past District Governor Lynn Morgan, Past District Governor Coach Don Riddell, Past District Governor Mav Sangve. Mav is one of our senior statesmen when it comes to past district governors. Welcome, Mav. Gail Scott, Past District Governor. I didn't see Gail in the room yet, but I believe she was registered. From District 6400, Liz Smith. Barry Fraser from my home club in Chatham, past district governor Barry, and immediate past district governor Jane McManus. As much as we celebrate the history, we have to look at the future, and we also have with us tonight our future governors. I would first like to introduce our district governor-elect, Karen Gabbries, who will take the reins July 1st, followed by our district governor nominee, Brenda Tipton, and our district governor nominee designate, Bala Murphy. Please join me in welcoming all of our distinguished guests.
Oh yeah, I said we had a lot of glitterati here, and we do. Sparky has been a wonderful district governor to work with this year, and I wanted to express my personal appreciation to you, Sparky. Thank you so much for all that you have done. It's been a joy and a lot of fun to work with you, and thank you for that introduction. And thanks to all of you for coming tonight to help us celebrate what we want to do. I'm here tonight to tell you about the story of the Rotary Club of Ann Arbor and how we have come to our senses. Oh my gosh, and is that needed? We have come to our senses. In a world, in a time when everything seems a little insane, we have come to our senses. We've come to a sense of place right here. This is our sense of place. We have come to a sense of purpose, and we have come to a sense of what's possible, what's possible. This place was built in 1916, and then World War I and influenza pandemic happened. And so there were troops billeted here before it was even completed. So the Rotary Club of Ann Arbor did not have its first meeting here until 1919. That was a long time ago. We stayed here. We had our weekly luncheon meetings here until the Second World War. The Second World War once again intervened, and troops again were billeted in this space, and we went off to a local hotel. Our history tells us that our Rotarians did not like other places. They complained about the Pretzel Bell, which is a renowned, revered restaurant in town, that they had no beer. They complained that the Allenell Hotel had the toughest steak ever served to Rotarians. And we were complaining just last week about black bean soup. Yes. Every week, black bean soup. So we're so glad to be back here and have a little variety and to claim our home. The other important part about this historic building is that John F. Kennedy announced the idea of the Peace Corps on the front steps of this building, which makes it even more significant to Rotarians who are all about peace. So we've been gone from here for about 21 months, and now we're back, and our weekly meetings will be here. This sense of place is so important to us. But a space and a luncheon and food and fellowship is nothing unless you have a sense of purpose. And we have a sense of purpose. We know what we're about. Of course, our Rotary motto is service above self, but we help kids succeed. Foster kids, when foster kids living in our community needed to pick out their own back-to-school clothes, we were there. When children struggle with reading and mathematics, we are their tutors in the schools. When students take a renewed interest in the value of education, we're there with the Strive program, and we give scholarships to them and others in the amount of $40,000 every year. And when local nonprofits have an idea about how they can help children succeed, we move $60,000 out into the community in a competitive bidding grant process. Oh yeah, and when it was time to celebrate 100 years of our club, we built a universal access playground at Gallup Park, the most popular place in the whole park. So, yeah, we help kids succeed locally and internationally. Our international work with the Humanitarian Committee is outstanding. We have worked in so many communities in Africa, in South America, in India, and we've done it jointly with some of you too. Our hats off to Rotary International. We love matching district grants and matching international grants, and we're able to compound our money by 10 times when we start doing that work. So yeah, that's our sense of purpose, helping kids succeed locally and internationally. But to me, and what attracted me to Rotary was the sense of the possible. It is possible to eradicate a disease from the face of the earth, and that's the whole polio call. That's what pulled me into this organization, that we can do that. And I'm sure John Hewko will talk about that later, but it really is an audacious goal, isn't it? It's so audacious. So we keep having major fundraisers every year to pump that in to get Bill and Melinda Gates match. And we improved our giving times 10 this last year to polio. So yeah. So we're friends, you know, we're your neighbors, we're friends, we're all mostly in this together. We're problem solvers, we're parents ourselves. We know what it is to care for a community. We are Rotary, and we are grounded in a sense of place, right here. We're grounded in a sense of purpose, helping kids succeed. And we will do the impossible, making it possible. And what's really awesome is we do it while we have fun. So that's the Rotary Club of Ann Arbor. I think I got the hook. All right, we are back. Yes. So we have some wonderful people in Rotary that really change your life when you get to know them, and certainly Ashish Sarkar is one of them. When Ashish said, well, what are you going to do for the return to the Union? I said, wow, I really like a good speaker. Well, I didn't know that Ashish would get John Hewko. So our dear past president, Ashish Sarkar, who was so active in so many ways in our club and in district as well, is here to introduce John Hewko. And thank you, Ashish.
Thank you, President Rosemary. Good evening, Secretary General John Hewko, honored guests, and fellow Rotarians. John Hewko is the Secretary General of Rotary International and the Rotary Foundation. Rotary International is one of the world's largest service and humanitarian organizations. He oversees the operations of both entities and manages a combined operating budget of over $300 million and assets of more than $1 billion. Mr. Hewko also manages Rotary's relationship with strategic partners and governments and leads a staff of almost 800 at Rotary's world headquarters in Evanston, Illinois, and in 7 offices outside around the globe. He started his current position in 2011. Many of you have inquired why his bio lists him as a member of Rotary Club of Kiev, Ukraine. That is because he is a charter member of that club, which was started in 1991 after the fall of Soviet Union. And at that time, he was living there. From 2004 to 2009, he was Vice President of Operations and Contract Development of the Millennial Challenge Corporation, also known as MCC, a U.S. government agency established in 2004 to deliver foreign assistance to the world's poorest countries. At MCC, he was the principal United States negotiator for foreign assistance agreements with 26 countries in Africa, Asia, South America, the Middle East, and the former Soviet Union. During his tenure, he completed the negotiation of assistance agreement totaling $6.3 billion to 18 countries for infrastructure, agriculture, water and sanitation, health and education projects. Prior to joining MCC, Mr. Hewko was the international partner with a law firm, Baker and McKenzie, specializing in international corporate transactions in emerging market countries. He helped establish the firm's Moscow office and was the managing partner of its Kiev and Prague offices. He has also lived and worked as an attorney in Brazil and Argentina. While in Ukraine, in the early 1990s, Mr. Hewko assisted the working group that prepared the initial draft of the new Ukrainian post-Soviet constitution. Mr. Hewko has been a public policy scholar at the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars, an adjunct professor of law at Georgetown University, and a visiting scholar at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. He has published papers and articles in leading US and international publications and has spoken extensively on political and business issues dealing with former Soviet Union, Central Europe, Africa, and Latin America. Mr. Hewko holds a law degree from Harvard University, a master's in modern history from Oxford University, where he studied as a Marshall Scholar, and a bachelor's in government and Soviet studies from Hamilton College in Clinton, New York. He speaks 4 languages. That's 4 more than I do. Besides English, Portuguese, Russian, Spanish, and Ukrainian, and has a working knowledge of Czech. So far you heard about John's official resume, and many of you have heard that in different forums. Now I want to share with you the personal side of that I have come to know about over the last 5 years of our friendship. First and foremost, John is a family man. Despite his busy schedule, not only in Evanston, but also traveling around the world, he makes it a point to visit his aging parents who live in Ann Arbor at least every other month to make sure they get to see him and also check on their care. Sometimes after a long day of meetings in Chicago, he will leave Chicago at 9 or 10 p.m. Chicago time and make the 4-hour drive to Ann Arbor at night. Return trips are often similar so that he can spend maximum time with his parents and his brother Mark's young family who also live in Ann Arbor area. The 2 brothers and a sister, Annetta, between them are very close. John is the oldest. He married the love of his life, Margarita, in 1989. They met while both were working in Washington, D.C. As mentioned above, they have lived all over the world and have a 27-year-old daughter, Maria. Maria is currently doing her graduate work in Paris. His wife, Marga, is a member of Rotary Club Number 1, which is the original club for Paul Harris, in Chicago, and will be its president in 2021. John and Marga live in Evanston. John is also an avid athlete. Although he played lacrosse as an undergraduate, the word is he played soccer while at Oxford and was very good at it. He loves hockey and played it himself among several other sports. He's an avid bicyclist, which many of you might know because he rides for polio every year, and a skier. John and few of his Oxford friends, and this many of you may not know, Oxford friends traveled from the northern tip of Africa to southern tip in an old beat-up truck with the help of an old-fashioned compass because they didn't have GPS back then. Then, after getting to this cape, they took a boat, small sailboat, and I think it was also beat up, and sailed across the Atlantic to Uruguay and landed there. So that's adventure and determination for this gentleman. His passion for Rotary and what Rotarians do all over the world is infectious. At least I have seen that. He is not afraid to tell you what you can do and how you can do it better. His Rolodex is full of contacts with very important people around the world, and he is always willing to help you making those contacts for your conferences, as evidenced today when he's handing out his card and to have him call you. Conferences, forums, and other important events. Polio eradication is his passion, and he has spoken around the world on this subject and has raised a lot of money for the foundation. Here in Southeast Michigan, Rotarians claim John Hewko as our own. That was my pitch to his secretary. Actually, I went to his secretary. That is to get him here. That is true. He was born in Hamtramck, Michigan, and spent his primary school years there. During his middle school years, he lived in Hudson, Ohio, and his father, Lou, a GM engineer at the time, was transferred there. His parents moved back to Michigan and lived in Clarkston area for many years. As such, John has called Michigan his home all through his young adult life before starting his international career. So, it is with great pleasure that we welcome Secretary General John Hewko to the podium for his remarks. John?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Well, thank you very much, Ashish, for that overly generous welcome. I really very much appreciate it. President Rosemary, thank you for the invitation to be here this evening. And in fact, this morning, Rosemary and I and Larry Eiler and Ashish were able to do an interview with Lucianne Lance at WLBY. And Rosemary and Larry, fantastic job. You guys did a great job promoting Rotary here in Ann Arbor, internationally, a very, very good interview. So I think it's going to be up on the website, or if it isn't already, so please check it out when you have a chance. And I also want to thank Ashish again. I know I did recognize you and thank you at the Windsor event that I spoke to last year, I believe. But Ashish and Norma have just been an outstanding help to me, to my brother Mark, to my sister Annetta, in terms of helping us with our parents who are both at Glacier Hills. Unfortunately, my mother, who's in the nursing facility there, isn't able to join us this evening. But again, thank you, Ashish and Norma. You've been almost like family to us, and we appreciate that everything you've done for us. So thank you very much. I'm delighted that my dad Lou can join us, and my brother Mark, and his wife Lisa, and my nephew Andrew. Thanks again for coming, guys. I know you've got a busy schedule. Last thing you want to do is go hear your brother talk about some boring Rotary stuff. But thanks for coming out. In fact, I feel very fortunate because it's really through my dad that I'm talking to you today as your General Secretary. As Ashish mentioned, my dad was a long-standing member of the Clarkston Rotary Club before they moved down here to Ann Arbor. And my dad is a very avid reader of the Rotarian magazine. And I was in 2008, I was in the U.S. government. I was a senior political appointee in the Bush administration. And then Barack Obama won the election. And since I was a political appointee, I became, as our friends across the pond like to say, I became redundant. And so the question then was, what do I want to do next? And so I went to the Carnegie Endowment and spent some time there as a visiting scholar, but still trying to figure out what to do. And again, as I said, my dad's a very avid reader of the Rotarian magazine, and he was reading the magazine one day and noticed that there was an ad in the magazine that Rotary was looking for a new general secretary. And so he ripped it out of the magazine and then wrote across the corner in sort of half English, half Ukrainian. He said, "John, you may want to check this out. You seem to have the qualifications." And he mailed it to me. And I still keep that page from the Rotarian magazine with his scribbling framed on the wall in my office. And I looked and I saw that the headhunting firm that was conducting the search for Rotary was the same one we had used at MCC when we were standing up that new government agency. So I called up Charlie Ingersoll, who's the managing partner there, and I said, "Charlie, I got this thing from my dad. about this Rotary opportunity. Is there something I should consider? And he said, yeah, I really hadn't thought about you, John, but now that I do, I think you'd be an ideal candidate. And so I sent in my CV, and the rest is, as they say history. And so I learned two very important lessons from that exercise. And the first is that very, very good things happen when you read the Rotarian magazine. And the second is always, always listen to your dad. So Governor Sparky and Lori, great to have you here. Thanks for coming. Governor John from 6400, great to have you here as well. I'm delighted that so many past district governors are here. Members of other clubs from District 6380, from 6400, and I understand there's also some Rotarians from 6360 who are here. So thank you all very much for coming. And of course, congratulations to the Rotary Club of Ann Arbor on returning to the Michigan Union, returning to the club's long-standing home dating, as your president mentioned, all the way back to 1919. I can say this with absolute sincerity. This is one of the greatest Rotary clubs in the world. Not only are you and it's not just your size, even though you are one of the 50 largest clubs in the world. I mean, this club is steeped in history with a great tradition of service, fellowship, and impact. And the history of this great club is steeped with hard work, with dedication. Throughout that history, you've undertaken countless service projects for the betterment of the Ann Arbor community. You've provided incredible opportunities for fellowship to your members. You've promoted the Rotary ideals, and you have actually lived that four-way test. I did a little bit of research on the club. I think the last 6 years, you've undertaken over 10 global grants in 3 continents, and you've touched the lives over 25,000 people through those grants. Over the years, you've given out countless grants for scholarships, the Strive program, and grants to other community nonprofits here in Ann Arbor and in the area. And of course, to commemorate your centennial, as President Rosemary mentioned, you raised $550,000. I think it was $1 million project for the playground in Gallup Park. And when the weather's nice, when I come out here to visit my dad, we always take a walk to Gallup Park. And he always reminds me, when we walk by that playground, he goes, Rotarians did that. That's our Rotary project. And you see all the people that are using it, that are taking advantage of it. And again, a fantastic project that's making a true difference in people's lives. And I think I can go on and listing the many projects that this club has undertaken, the other clubs in District 6380, the other clubs in District 400. And so when we ask the question, why Rotary matters in today's world, I think there's no clearer example than the impact that our 36,000 clubs have on their local communities. Because the work that you do, the work that you have been doing since 1919, is replicated 36,000 times around the world, year after year, decade after decade. Now, one of the goals I had when I took this job in 2011 was to try to see how can we quantify the worldwide value of the work that our 36,000 clubs, that our 1.2 million Rotarians do. We know that we collect annually about $400 million. Over the last few years, we've collected around $400 million in our Rotary Foundation. But we had no idea of what the value is of the volunteer hours that our Rotarians spend on doing good in the world. And we had no idea about how much money Rotary clubs were collecting outside of the Rotary Foundation. And so we retained Johns Hopkins University, which is a leading institution in helping nonprofits do this sort of work, to help us quantify the value of the volunteer hours that Rotarians do every year. And at the Hamburg Convention last year, I was proud to announce that value is around $850 million a year, which is an extraordinary figure. If you look at the value of our volunteer hours. And then I said, all right, how do we get a statistically valid figure for the amount of money that Rotary clubs raise outside of the Rotary Foundation. So we hired graduate students from Harvard to help us figure out what that figure is. And I was very proud to be able to announce at the International Assembly last month in San Diego that number is around $1.15 billion. So then the question is, yeah, it's an extraordinary figure. So the question then is, how do we do that? How do we do that? And we do that through the tenacity, the hard work, and the creativity of Rotarians all around the world. I had the pleasure of visiting about 4 or 5 years ago a small club north of Seattle. It's a breakfast club. They have about 20 members. And every year at Halloween, they put together this extraordinary haunted house in their town. And the haunted house has 3 levels of terror, like really scared, like tremendously scared, and you're terrorized. And they charge more for each level of scarededness. And then I was having breakfast with the Rotarians, and I said, so how much you guys raised through this haunted house? And they said, $250,000. You know. I was in Kelowna, Canada, which is a beautiful place. There's about 5 or 6 Rotary clubs there. I was having breakfast with the club presidents. And I said, just out of curiosity, how much do you guys raise every year through your 6 clubs together through your various events? And they said, about $500,000. Now it's $500,000 Canadian, but still, it's still some serious money. So that's how we do it, through punching above our weight, by taking our initiative, taking our hard work, and truly making a difference. So if you add the $400 million that we contribute as Rotarians to the Rotary Foundation, add to that the $850 million of the value of our volunteer hours, and then the $1.15 billion in cash that clubs raise outside of the foundation, that adds up to about $2.4 billion a year that Rotary is contributing to making the world a better place. That is an extraordinary number, and I think that puts us right up there as one of the top nonprofits in the world. And I think this is something that should make every Rotarian proud, and I think it also allows us now to go out into the marketplace and to market ourselves as a $2.4 billion nonprofit, one of the largest in the world, putting us right up there with the Gates Foundation and other well-known charities. But you know, we're so much more than just, our projects and the money we raise and the grants that we give out. Building peace and goodwill among peoples for Rotary is not a slogan. These are concepts that are deeply rooted in our culture, our history, and they are becoming increasingly important at a time when civility and civil discourse are sorely lacking, both here and home and abroad. This year, for example, we celebrate the 75th anniversary of Rotary's extraordinary relationship with the United Nations. 45 Rotarians participated in the drafting of the UN Charter in San Francisco in 1945. In 1943, a Rotary conference in London led to the the resolutions and the actions that were taken at that Rotary conference led to the creation of UNESCO in 1946. And then, of course, our long-standing and extraordinarily important relationship with UNICEF in eradicating polio, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Our youth exchange programs, RILA, Rotaract, Interact, are making a huge difference in the lives of young people, and they do an incredible job, again, of promoting goodwill and friendships that span the globe. And of course, the $2.4 billion that I just mentioned. That and much more is why Rotary matters in today's world. But I think this also raises the question of what makes Rotary unique. Why are 1.2 million women and men in over 200 countries and geographic locations, why are they Rotarians? Why are we Rotarians? Now, as Ashish mentioned, I'm in my 9th year as your General Secretary, and it has been a truly rewarding experience. As Ashish mentioned, I have the honor and privilege of heading up a professional staff of almost 800. We have 600 colleagues in our world headquarters in Evanston, and then 200 in our 7 offices around the world. I think Kevin Kelly, our grant officer, where are you, Kevin? Is here. Delighted to have you with us, Kevin. Kevin does a great job in working with the foundation and in gathering donors for Rotary. I would urge, in fact, all of you to come to Evanston. Come and visit us. We own our own building. It's an 18-story building. It was a tremendous investment we made in 1985. It's the premier office building on the North Shore. We use half of it. The other half we lease out. So I've learned more about facilities management in this job than I care to know about. But we have Rotarians from all over the world to come and visit. There's an awful lot to do and see. Then you can go and have a makeup meeting at Chicago 1, and then visit the Paul Harris home, which was where Rotary was really founded. We were now renovating it to the state it was in 1949 when Paul passed away. And then his gravesite is very close to the home. And what's interesting is he's buried about 50 yards from where the founder of Lions is buried. And I got to tell you, Paul's grave is a heck of a lot nicer. So even in death, he's beating lions. So please come and visit us. We have Rotarians from all over the world that come. So that's one very, very important part of my job, is to head up this tremendous professional staff. But the other is really to be able to travel the world and to participate and meet with Rotarians and inspire Rotarians and participate in a number of initiatives and projects that are going to be critical to the success of Rotary in the coming years and decades. And I think they build on 2 features which truly make our organization unique and put it perhaps into a universe of one. And the first is that we represent that, what I call the intersection between commerce and cause. You know, there's a lot of organizations out there that allow you to network professionally. In fact, I like to say that we really were the original LinkedIn, before anyone ever heard of LinkedIn. In fact, it's interesting. I was talking to one of the archivists for the Chicago 1 Club archives. They have tremendous archives that they've kept from the early years of Rotary, which was started in Chicago. And the Chicago 1 Club had a rule that every member had to bring a lead card to the meeting and provide at least one other member a business lead. And if they didn't do it 2 or 3 times, you get thrown out of the club. Now, times have changed, but the original idea of Rotary was really, how do we bring together leaders, not only for the fellowship, but to network professionally? Again, the original LinkedIn before anyone heard of it. So we're at the intersection between commerce on the one hand and cause, because there's a lot of organizations out there that allow you to do good in the world. But I think we're unique in that we bring these 2 concepts together. That, again, that intersection between commerce and cause. And the second feature is that Rotary, I think, is uniquely both local and global at the same time. Being a Rotarian allows you to get involved in some terrific local projects and make a true impact in your community. And again, the park at the playground at Gallup Park is just one example of this sort of impact. But being a Rotarian also means being part of a large international network of like-minded professional men and women that provides opportunities to participate in our many international fellowships and programs and to take part in tackling large global issues such as the eradication of polio. So there is no question that Rotary, now more than ever, matters in today's world. But this is also a unique and great time to be a Rotarian. Think about it. We are on the verge of eradicating polio. 1985, we started with 350,000 cases around the world, 125 countries with polio. And Rotary, a nonprofit, not a multilateral institution, not a government agency, had the audacity, and I think that's the audacity, to say, we are going to eradicate a disease from the face of the earth. And of course, we were joined in 1988 by UNICEF, World Health Organization, CDC, and 10 years ago by the Gates Foundation. And so from those 350,000 cases, we're really down to just 2 countries in the world, Afghanistan and Pakistan, where the wild polio virus is still circulating. And hopefully this year, we will declare Africa as polio-free as well. Now, we've had some setbacks. We had 168 cases last year in 2019. That's an increase from 33 that we had in 2018. We had 139 in Pakistan and 29 in Afghanistan. And I asked Aziz Menem, who is Rotary's point person in Pakistan on polio, I said, Aziz, what's going on? What's sort of led to this spike in cases? And he pulled out his cell phone. He said, the biggest challenge we face is social media and real fake news. You know, fake news that's really fake. What they did was they took a group of children and gave them the polio vaccine, and then 2 seconds later they all start writhing on the floor and foaming at the mouth. And somebody videoed this and then blew it out over social media, and then all of a sudden it becomes real fake news. And so that's our challenge right now: is how do we deal with these sorts of issues? Also, there was a significant change in the Pakistan government's structure, how they're handling polio. But I'm very, very confident that we will overcome and eradicate this disease. Ravi Ravindran, who's the incoming chair of the Rotary Foundation, and Holger Knack, who's the incoming Rotary International president, just met now as we speak in Pakistan with the Pakistani government's leadership. And we are making progress. They've put in place robust new processes. We're doing a very effective job in sort of trying to overcome some of these myths and problems that we have in some of these communities. So we will overcome these problems. We will eradicate polio. But from Rotarians, our job, in my view, is to redouble our efforts. We have to put the pedal to the metal and get across the finish line. Because think about it. How many people, and this is what really motivates me as your General Secretary, how many people can go to their grave knowing that you have played a meaningful role in leaving a legacy which will exist for as long as mankind inhabits the earth? That, for me, is a very, very powerful thought, and hopefully is one for each and every Rotarian. So, let's go. So it's a great time to be a Rotarian because we're on the verge of eradicating polio. We're launching our new strategic plan and its action plan. How are we going to implement that? It's going to guide us for the next 10 years, and it has 4 key pillars. I'm not going to focus on all of them, but I'd like to sort of highlight one in particular, and that is one of our key focuses going forward in the plan is to find ways to engage people in Rotary that doesn't necessarily involve joining a Rotary club. So we're going to be piloting, starting this year and next year, the concept of global membership, where you don't join a Rotary club, but you join Rotary International. And of course, the challenge is going to be, what's the value proposition? Why would you pay $200 or whatever it's going to be to join Rotary versus working with the other millions and thousands of nonprofits that are available out there? But something we're going to try. You have to shoot to score. And so we're going to try to see how we can increase people's engagement with Rotary that doesn't necessarily entail joining a Rotary club. Third, we've raised more money in the foundation than ever before. As I mentioned, last year we raised $400 million in the Rotary Foundation. Now, $100 million of that was from Gates for polio, but we've raised, in addition to that, $300 million. It's an extraordinary figure. And finally, we're now doing more global grants than ever. You know, as you know, we launched our new global grant process back in 2013. We now have more global grants coming in than we have money to spend. That's a good problem to have. That's a very good problem to have. So Rotarians are passionate. They're picking up the baton. We're getting huge numbers of global grants, more than ever. So this is a great, great time to be in Rotary. A lot of tremendous, great things happening. But we do face some challenges. And so let me close by just offering you a global perspective on some of the challenges we face as an organization and some of the things I believe we need to do to address those challenges. And I was at a Rotary event in Niagara Falls earlier this year. I was doing one of these panel sort of armchair discussions with Jeff Cadrat, who's the director for that area. And one of the things he asked me, he said, John, what keeps you up at night? As you think about Rotary, as you think about our future, what is it that keeps you up at night? And I said, Jeff, there's six things that I worry about. You know, it's a very short list. 6 things that really keep me up at night. And the first is membership. and I'm going to be very open and frank with you. We have been flat at about 1.2 million members for the last 20-some years. Last year, we had 150,000 people join Rotary. We had 150,000 people who left Rotary. We have, in particular, a membership issue in North America. The US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, UK, membership is falling, and the average age of our Rotarians is growing. For the first time in Rotary history, North American Rotarians make up less than 30%. We're at 29%. We started by definition at 100, right? 1905. We're now down to 29% and falling rapidly. In 10 years, if the current membership trends continue, North America will be at 15%. Asia will be at 50%. And that's fantastic. It's great to see that growth in the emerging markets in the developing world. We need to grow Rotary everywhere. And for me, I think the challenge we face is that, in a sense, we're selling a product. And I don't say that in a pejorative sense, that we're hawking soap or something. We are selling a product. And that product is our club experience. We're offering a product people are going to pay with their time and money to join a Rotary club. And what we're finding in North America for sure, that people either are not buying our product, or when they buy it, they find it wasn't what it was all cracked up to be. And so for me, one of the solutions, and they're not the only one, but one of the solutions for addressing our membership problem in North America is the concept of flexibility. We need to diversify our product line. We've been very successful over 10 years in offering a unified product that's been appealing. That, in my view, is no longer the case. What can never change is our values and the four-way test. That's written in stone. But how we organize our clubs, how often we meet, what kind of membership categories we have, the bell ringing, singing, all are great things, but those aren't our values. Those are just tools by which we deliver those values. And so for me, it's if the traditional model works, carry on. But if it doesn't, we need to put on our thinking caps. We need to be flexible. We need to think out of the box and come up with new products that are more attractive to the market and the demographic that we're trying to attract. Let me just give you one example. Passport clubs. They're becoming extremely popular. The first one was in California. They just meet 6 times a year. That's it. Every other month. And then every other month they have a social. But in addition, each member has to do at least 40 hours of service work with one or more clubs or NGOs in that district. Well, that club's grown from 25 to over 125 in a couple of years, because that model, although not meeting our rules, not meeting the traditional ways we do things, was very attractive to a subset, demographic subset in the San Jose area. Remember, there is no Rotary police. So my message on membership is flexibility, and let's grow Rotary through new, different club models. The old one works, the traditional one works, fantastic. If it doesn't, we don't want to be like, what was Einstein that said? Insanity is what? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Second thing that keeps me up at night, and this builds on the membership issue. Will we continue to remain relevant? I don't know if, perhaps some of you had a chance to see Michael McQueen. He's an Australian business consultant, and he speaks at many Rotary events. And he talks about what's called the relevance curve, where organizations kind of move up that curve, they hit the top, and then you start moving down that relevance curve. And the organization will reach a point in which there's a point of no return. Where are we on that relevance curve? And he's got us on the downward slope, not yet at the point of no return, but getting relatively close. And so the challenge we face is becoming, let's say, the next Kodak. Where Kodak had digital technology, they had the digital camera, but they didn't realize, they thought they were in the film business and didn't realize they were in the memory business. So will we remain relevant? And how do we avoid becoming the service world's Kodak? Third, will we be nimble enough? In other words, we're in some ways as an organization like an aircraft carrier. Once we move, we're unstoppable. And you see that in polio. We're unstoppable. On the other hand, there is tremendous competition out there. Technology, things are changing at a pace we've never, ever seen in history. And so in the face of this new environment, this new paradigm, will we be nimble enough to react and grow and continue to prosper? Fourth thing that keeps me up at night, and that is continuity. To deal with the challenges that we face, particularly here in North America and the other countries I talked about, it's going to require strategic focus, continuity. It's not something that we're going to solve in 1 or 2 years. It's going to take 5, 10, 15 years of dogged effort and strategic focus. Yet as an organization, we're designed, and for good reason, to be discontinuous. Club presidents change every year. District governors change every year. Rotary International Board, half the members change every year. The Rotary International President changes every year. A quarter of our trustees change every year. Chair of the foundation changes every year. We are built for discontinuity. And so the challenge is, how do we become more continuous, for lack of a better word, operate in a manner that's strategic and focusing on continuity when our governance structure is designed, for good reason, to be discontinuous. Fifth, what's going to be our next global project? We're on the verge of eradicating polio. We can't lose our focus on polio. That needs to be our top priority. But at the same time, once we eradicate polio, it's not like the next day you say, okay, what are we going to do now? Gee, let's do malaria or whatever. It doesn't work that way. We need to, on the one hand, continue working on polio, but quietly behind the scenes begin a process of figuring out what our next global project will be if we're going to have one. And I think if we are going to have one, it has to have, in my view, three characteristics. Harvard Business Review asked me a few years ago to write a piece on how was it that Rotary was able to stay the course for so long, singularly focused on polio. And I said, there are three reasons, in my view at least. First, at the time in 1985, when we chose polio as our global project, it was a meaningful thing to most Rotarians. It's in 125 countries, polio. Most Rotarians knew what polio was. It wasn't some far-off disease in some far-off land, or when I told my daughter the Rotary's involved in polio, she's like, oh, isn't that like some Egyptian disease or something? No, she never saw it, never witnessed it, her friends never had it. So that's the first characteristic I think the next global project will have to have. It has to be something that's meaningful and understandable to every Rotarian. Secondly, the beauty of polio eradication is there is a clear and measurable end. We know when we have eradicated polio. So what else is out there where you can clearly measure an end point? If it's like we're going to create a peaceful world, when do we declare victory? That's hard. So the second characteristic is you need to have a clear, in my view, measurable end. And third, something that you can participate beyond check writing. The beauty of polio is that you had hundreds and thousands of Rotarians out there putting those 2 drops of polio vaccine in children's mouths. I know when I went on my first NID in India, and I'm in a slum in Mumbai, and I'm vaccinating these children, and I look out the window, or actually out the door, and I see 4 kids with polio crawling across the street. At that moment, polio eradication became for me not just some abstract thing that I was kind of doing. I was saying, my God, 2 drops of polio vaccine in this child's mouth will prevent that child from ever having to crawl on the street like that again. And the cause became very personal and very emotional. So what else is out there that will allow Rotarians to participate beyond check writing? So that's our challenge. What's going to be our next global project? Maybe we'll have one in each of our 6 areas of focus, or maybe we just won't be able to coalesce around one. But that's the 5th thing that keeps me up at night. What are we going to do after polio? And finally, the growing regionalization in Rotary. Rotary is evolving, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, in a different way in different parts of the world. I think, Ashish, you probably agree that Rotary in India is slightly different from Rotary in North America. Not better, not worse, it's just different. And so how are we going to deal with this growing regionalization in Rotary? My own sense is that at some point we're going to become a confederation. It's my personal opinion, it's not saying it's going to happen, a confederation of regional entities that will allow each region to kind of adapt the way it governs itself and acts that's more appropriate for local conditions. But this raises then the question of the glue. What is the glue that keeps us as Rotarians together? Is it structure? Well, if it's structure, we need to be very careful about changing it. Or is the glue that keeps us together our values? All the activities we do that bring people together, the convention, district conferences, RAGs, youth exchange, our projects, our peace programs, global grants, all of that. If that's the glue, if it's the people-to-people interaction that's the glue, then I think we have a lot less risk if we were to change our structure. So those are some of the things that keep me up at night. I'm very optimistic, however. We have some challenges, some serious challenges, but we've risen to the challenges before. We wouldn't be here as a $2.4 billion organization after 110 years if we weren't capable of rising to the challenges. But I'm also a realist, and the challenges, especially here in North America, are not going to go away. But I am confident that with clubs such as the Rotary Club of Ann Arbor and the clubs in District 6400 and 6380 and throughout the world, we will overcome those challenges. And when this club celebrates its 150th year, if we get it right, I predict that we will be an organization of 3 to 4 million Rotarians with an even greater legacy for doing good in the world. And the answer to why Rotary matters in the world will become even more self-evident. So thank you for having me this evening, and again, congratulations on 104 years of service, and congratulations on coming back to your roots here at the Michigan Union. Thank you.
You answered all the questions. We don't have that many more. So would you be willing to stay afterwards?
Well, I'm happy to take questions from the floor if they want.
Okay. All right then. All right. Okay, let's open it up. All right.
So John said he's happy to take questions from the floor, and the first one comes from Liz Smith.
John, you gave a breakdown of membership worldwide. Could you give us a breakdown of foundation giving worldwide?
Liz asked the question, I gave the breakdown of membership worldwide. Could I give a breakdown of foundation giving worldwide? I don't have the exact figures, but North America is still the largest contributor to the Rotary Foundation, which is fantastic. The other positive thing coming out of North America is we have tremendous amount of expectancies that are in the pipeline. I asked the development office the other day to do an analysis of what sort of expectancies through planned giving can we expect in North America, and the number is absolutely extraordinary. So North America continues to be the biggest giving country, although India, Taiwan, Korea are coming on strong. We're seeing tremendous giving coming out of many of the Asian countries. I think Nigeria has more AKS members than many countries in Europe, for example. So we're seeing, sort of pockets of the developing world who are really stepping up. But the U.S. still continues to lead in foundation giving. So thank you for your generosity.
We have another question? All right.
Yeah.
A suggestion for a new Rotary global focus, climate change.
The comment was a suggestion for a new global project, climate change. Thank you for that comment. We are now beginning, the trustees are looking at environment now as either potentially a seventh area of focus or beefing up the environmental components of our existing six areas of focus. Of course, there's a fine political line you've got to thread with that issue, but there's clearly a growing interest, groundswell of interest in environment and issues around climate in the Rotary world, particularly among our younger members, and particularly among that younger demographic that we're so keen on attracting to our organization. So we're taking the issue seriously, and I think within the next 6 months to 9 months, we'll have an answer as to whether environment will become a seventh area of focus or become much more pronounced in the other six areas. Right. So the comment was, if we really want to continue working, for children and make a better world for children, how can one not work with environment? So, and I think the answer is you can't. So we will. It's just a matter of how we do it that we're trying to figure out right now.
I think that's it.
Great. Well, thank you all very much again.
Christy, I have a little gift for you.
So as you know, Rotary is all about peace, and this club is all about peace. We've been a major sponsor of peace conferences, and we are a peace builder group. And so, as always, we're going to end with our special peace song, led by Joanne Pearson here, our president-elect for next year. Joanne, peace.
Peace, thank you. You do have song sheets if you don't know the words. Joni, you may, you can do whatever you want. If you'd like to stand, please do. Sing out, everybody. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as our Father, brothers all are we. Let me walk with my sister in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Thank you for the planning committee. Thank you to the staff of the Michigan Union. Rotarians, go out there and make a special effort to do something good. Thank you again. Good night.